Hey everyone, Pastor Tommy McMurtry. Just wanted to make a video giving my thoughts about this dedication of the altar that just took place in Jerusalem. There's been a lot of buzz about it. I've had a lot of people ask me about it. Just this past Sunday, I preached about the Temple Mount fraud and how the Bible easily proves that that old city Jerusalem that you're all familiar with, where the Dome of the Rock is, there was never a temple built there. It was literally outside those walls to the south. The Bible, archaeology, and history all proves it. The Wailing Wall is just a wall of an old Roman fortress, Fort Antonia, and Christians and Jews literally go make trips there every day, praying to a wall. And the Temple Mount Institute, they are just a big fraud. They are deceiving people, getting them all hyped up, and it gets Christians all excited. They see all the stuff that's going on in Jerusalem with the temple, and they go to the Temple Mount Institute. They see how they've got everything all ready to go, and they get them all excited, thinking, the rapture is about to come, because we know the Antichrist is going to do his thing in that third temple. But I watched the video of them doing this sacrifice on this altar. And people are asking, could this have been the abomination of desolation? I'm going to say absolutely not. It was not the abomination of desolation. I'll tell you what I think that whole thing was. It was nothing more than a cheap publicity stunt. Folks, what went on in that sacrifice was an absolute joke. It's like they didn't even take it serious. When you watch what's going on, these priests or whatever, they had no idea what they were doing. First off, they killed the lamb off site somewhere because they didn't want people to see that. And, they had it in a green tote that this guy's lugging around. And then they went and just threw part of it on the altar. That's not according to the word of God. When you watch them doing their thing where they're trying to light the fire, light the menorah and all those things, it's not working. And people are saying it's because Adonai was blowing the fire out. You know why the fire kept going out? Is because they were doing it outside. That's why you don't light the menorah outside. The menorah is supposed to be inside of a tabernacle or a temple. That's why it was getting blown out. But either way, I don't think God was anywhere near that whole thing. That was nothing but a cheap joke. If you watch and you look on there, all those artifacts, the altar of incense that was up there, the table of showbread, the menorah, those were all cheap frauds and substitutes. I have a picture right here of the actual menorah that they have at the Temple Mount Institute. And that's not the one that was there on the stage. It was a cheap knockoff version of it because this was just a big show. I wasn't able to take pictures when I was there of the table of showbread and the altar of incense and things, but I saw those things, the laver they had it there. I saw all those things, and those were cheap imitations they had up there. These people didn't even take this thing serious. And, I'm not going to compare what they did to like what, Nadab and Abihu did, where they offered strange fire. But understand, when Nadab and Abihu did their own thing when it came to the ceremonies that God had put out, God killed them. God had nothing to do with what took place there because God has nothing to do with their temple. He has nothing to do with their sacrifices. He rejects their sacrifices and offerings. And just like they have rejected the true sacrifice, Jesus Christ. And so we all know that. We all know that Jesus Christ is a final sacrifice. But I just wanted to share this with you just to show that what you saw, if you've seen these videos, was a cheap publicity stunt. I mean, the priests, while they were up there by that altar, they're taking selfies. I mean, they didn't take it serious at all. It was just a big joke to these guys. It was a publicity stunt. They've got a cameraman walking around up there. They didn't care. No sanctity. I mean, when you read the Bible, it was very clear in the Bible. They were supposed to take these things very serious. These guys didn't even take it serious. They had no idea what they were doing. And if there was anything to what they did, if God was in it at all, God would have been very displeased because that was very poorly done. I could have done a better job performing those rituals than they did if I was dumb enough to try. That was a joke, and don't be deceived by that. It wasn't the abomination of desolation. I don't think there was anything significant to it at all. I think it was just a cheap publicity stunt that they did on Hanukkah just to try to get everybody all fired up. One more thing to get people just all supporting Israel and thinking the rapture is just about to happen. That's not the case. It was a joke. And let me tell you something. If that sacrifice that they did was any kind of reflection of the effort they're going to put into rebuilding the temple, then I think that temple that they build is going to be an absolute joke. It's very clear in the Bible when you read about Solomon's temple, even Herod's temple that was there in Jesus' day. It was an amazing building. It was an amazing structure. But when you see the cheap way these people are doing stuff, I wonder what this temple is going to look like. And if they're going to do it in such a cheap, pathetic fashion, the question I have is, what have they been doing with all the money people have been sending to the Temple Mount Institute, including Christians? I mean, because what they did there in that ritual was just a joke. Their items they had, they were cheap. I mean, they couldn't even put the lamb in something fancy. They put it in look like a junky green tote that they got from Walmart. What is that all about? So don't get excited about anything you see there, folks. That was just one more example of just the Jews trying to hype things up and get everybody supporting them. It was a cheap publicity stunt that is not to be taken serious. So anyway, those are my thoughts on their dedication of the altar in Jerusalem. I think it was all a cheap, lame joke. So thank you very much for watching.